Dr. Myland R. Brown, lifelong educator. And in recent weeks, I've really been concerned and disturbed about what is happening in our school system. What I've been seeing on national television, and also what I've been reading in the paper. We're going to have to get a handle on our young people as adults and as parents. It is very important that we put an end to these students, our students, being disrespectful, dropping out of school, and committing crimes. In doing some research recently, and reading about some research, it has been stated that our young folk that commit crimes, don't have any respect for others, bad behavior, is due to being unloved and unwanted in the cradle. In other words, in the beginning, according to the research and experts, our children are not loved in the cradle and they are unwanted in the cradle. At the same time, while they are here, and they are here, it is our responsibility to see to it that they get off to a good start. A very important start in their lives. Now, to the parents and guardians, you have a great job to do. And the educators in the school system are willing to help. But you have to do your part. You see, this education situation, it starts at home. Now ask yourself the question, what type of product are you sending to the school system? Are your students respectful? Do they have good manners? Do they have a love for other people? Are they concerned? This is what you need to talk about and be concerned about, because the school system has a set of laws put in place in order to see that your student or your child is successful. Now, it appears that your laws at home are in conflict with the laws in the school system. And this cannot be. There are two sets of rules. But if you would teach your child discipline at home, well, punishment becomes unnecessary. Punishment becomes unnecessary. And when I say punishment, ISS and OSS, and suspension, all kinds of restrictions placed on your child because of his or her behavior. It's up to you to teach that child at home. And all of the things that they are doing that you know are not acceptable at school, you need to stop it at home. So when they come to the classroom, they will not be disruptive of other students' learning, because other parents, they dislike that when that child is being animal and your child is disturbing the class. You need to teach them to pay attention. You need to teach them to respect their teacher and administrators. Now every school, each school has a mission statement. But the essence of that statement is to take your child and help them get a quality education. To help them to graduate and have a degree or diploma so they can have a better life in the future. Get ready for the world of work. But if your child is going to the school and they are disobeying and violating the dress code, you see, they cannot get what you call a decent job because they are dressed incorrectly. Now you think about it. A youngster walking around with his pants down, or no belt, what have you, showing his shorts or Fruit of the Loom, what have you, that's just as unacceptable as it can be. At the same time, the mission of the school is to prepare your youngster for a bright future and the world of work. Well, there's a serious contradiction there. They cannot get a good job and nobody's going to recommend them for a good job. And I would think this is what you want, for your child to grow up and be able to stand on his or her own 2 feet, what have you, and make mama and daddy proud. But if you send a kid to school and they disrespect the teacher, violate the school laws, and then you come over there and uphold your child in the wrong, you aren't doing them any good. And it just continues. It just mushrooms. And then when you know anything, your kid has been expelled from the school system. And then chances up, it will not go to another school system. And then it just snowballs then. And your child feel like they are neglected, they're unwanted, they're kicked to the curb. That's not the case at all. In order to be successful, requirements must be met. If your child, if you set goals, what have you, well, if you set the right goals, and use discipline, the right goals will help your child get the goal, G-O-L-D. And you keep in mind, the person that has the goal makes the rule. It's called the golden rule. So I'm appealing to all parents, black and white, all over the wiregrass and elsewhere, to sit down and talk to your child about dressing for success. Because each time I complete an application for jobs or recommend somebody for a job, an adult or teenager, the first thing on the criteria is dress code. How well does this person dress? How well are they groomed? Look at any application in the school system, what have you, and this is what they ask about. From California to Miami, grooming is the first thing. So image is very important. Don't allow your children to walk around looking like thugs and dressing a certain way just because somebody else is doing it. That's the worst reason of all, to dress some way because somebody else is doing it. See, my parents didn't allow us to adopt the different dress code, the dressing styles and what have you that they had when we were growing up. You've always had the enemy out there, but they knew that we had to be dressed correctly, speak well, respect others, because when you respect others, they will look after you. See, when you behave yourself, when your parents aren't there, other folk will come to your rescue. And our parents taught us this, is that you got to behave in a certain way, so when mom and dad are not there, other folk will appreciate you, and they will love you and see about you and come to your rescue. But if you got an arrogant, disrespectful child, using profanity, the folk that could help your child, they're going to let them sink. They're going to let them hit rock bottom. They're not going to be the village that saved the child like it was when I came along. And your child needs a village around them when you're not there. And this is very important. And then you got to be the boss at home. You see, when it comes to the daily routine of your child, you got to monitor that, the daily routine. There are 24 hours in a day. It is made of daylight and night. So from the time that your child leaves the school until the time they come back the next day, that's 24 hours. Now between that time, what is your child doing? Are they getting their assignments? Are they reading? Are they staying out of trouble? Are they making plans to build a vocabulary? This is very important. And according to the national reports, our children are just falling by the wayside. And to go to a high school and get a certificate of attendance is a waste of time. A certificate of attendance is as if you've never been there, because you're not going there to get a certificate of attendance. You're going to get a high school diploma. That's the objective in the first place, to get a high school diploma. You know, I'm not talking about whether it's fair, right, or wrong. It's the policy. And until the policy changes, we have to adhere to it. I had to do the same thing. Even with a doctorate degree, which I earned in 1968 from Ball State University. In fact, David Letterman went to Ball State University in August of '65, the same as I did. David Letterman entered Ball State, August 1965, and I did too. You see, and you can see now David Letterman show. It seemed like he got the gold mine, and I got the shaft, but not really. We've all been successful. And then Stedman Graham, Oprah's friend, he went to Ball State in the '80s and got a master's degree. All I'm saying is, education is the key, and education represents the requirement that must be met. Have you ever seen a dog chase a car? I can imagine you have. I have. It always got my interest because after the dog caught the car, he turned around, went back where he came from. For a long time, I didn't understand that. I said, why chase it if that's all you're going to get out of it? But then it hit me. The reason the dog always turned around after he caught the car, and it wasn't because he wasn't prepared to drive. He wasn't prepared to drive. So I'm saying to you, nowadays, you have to get a high school diploma so you'll be prepared to drive, you see. So you can get a driver's license. So you can get the job that you want, a decent job. And it's very important, parents, that you pay attention to that. You got to speak up and talk to your youngsters all the time, you see. In other words, it reminds me of the story about the young man that was in the army overseas. He sent his mother 5 expensive talking birds. A few weeks later, he called his mom, said, Mom, did you get the present? She said, I sure did, son. And said, they were so good. He said, what? Mama, don't tell me. Yes, I got those birds, I cooked them, you know, and made a little gravy, and they were good. He said, Mama, those were very expensive birds. They could speak 5 different languages, and you kill those birds. She said, yeah, they should have said something. So what I'm saying to you, parents, that you have to say something. You cannot wait until after the fact. You got to speak up now to your youngsters, you see, and stop making excuses, and stop allowing them to make excuses. This is very important, you see. And if your son is a good athlete, you have them hit those books also, you know, because they accuse athletes of being dumb, but athletes aren't dumb. Sometimes they don't hit the books like they should. But you got to also get your lesson. And your youngsters can send themselves to college on academic scholarship. Don't have to have an athletic scholarship if they would get that lesson. This is very important. This is one time this doctor told this athlete, said, I want you in my office first thing in the morning so you can take this blood test if you want to play ball. After he told the young man that, he stayed up all night studying for the blood test. Now you see, it was something wrong with that. He wasn't cerebral, he didn't get it, you know. But that's what they say about athletes. That's one of the parables. Of course, you know better than I know better. In order to be successful, you got to practice. And you also got to do just like that label on that orange juice at Winn-Dixie. It says made from concentrate. That's what success is made from. Success is made from concentrate. And you're not going to change, your son not going to change, your daughter not going to change until your thinking changes. This is very, I don't care how much I talk to you or anybody else. Your thinking has to change on the topic, and then you're going to change. I tell you something else too. Nobody can make you feel inferior unless you permit them to. If you're handing out those type of permits, that's your fault. And I don't care what color you are, whether you're a red neck, a black neck, a pecan tan neck, that doesn't matter. You see, because everybody has a color. You see, my skin is called dark or black, but it's not a birth defect, because everybody got one of these. I'm glad I got one. And if my neck is black, I'm so glad. But it's so more important that I got a neck. That's very important. So you see, you have a great opportunity to support the school system, support the Chamber of Commerce and what they're trying to do, Mr. Parker, support the Deltas, support the sororities, support the Panhellenic Council. You have all these things to do. And the thing about it is, do not worry about something that you cannot do anything about. But the thing that you can do something about, you need to jump to it. Because you can do something about being smart mouth. You can do something about making a lot of noise. You can do something about getting your lesson. You can do something about dressing correctly. You can do something about speaking correctly, what have you. All those things you can do something about. But you can't do anything about the color of your skin. You didn't have any sense, so don't worry about that. But all these other things, you can do something about. You see, when I was a youngster, picking cotton, I found out early on that I didn't have, I was told, well, Brian, you don't have an education. So I got a good education. I finished high school. Then I went to college, got a BS and a master's and a doctorate degree in 1968. But before then, you see, they said, Brian, you're unclean. So I started washing, taking a good bath every day, smelling good, because I was unclean. And then they said, Brian, you are uncouth. So I started behaving myself, acting like somebody. You see, I could do something about all of that. But then the last requirement, I couldn't change that. Then they said, Brian, I said, what now? They said, you're the wrong color. I said, well, now, it's your time to change. So you see, the thing that's going to make you successful, you can do something about. You set your goals, G-O-A-L-S, so you can get some G-O-L-D. And I think if you do that with the support of your parents, and the parents stop upholding you in the wrong, and coming to the school to see about your child, not when something happens, but when everything is sunshine, right? You come and see about your youngster. This is very important. You're going to have to see about it, because if you don't, the law enforcement, what have you, they're not going to tolerate your child being disrespectful and talking to the teacher in a kind of way. You see, because the teachers can let your child flunk on purpose. And it's not the teacher's fault, because they're working as hard as they can to get your kids to get their lesson, do their assignment, because that's what it's all about. And all these parents are paying this money, paying tax money for you to get a good education. Everybody's paying money. I'm paying money. You know, when I get my check, what have you, and they take out all this for this and this, I think Hurricane Louis has been through my check. I don't have much left, but that's all right. I don't have any problem with that, because you ain't heavy. You my sister, you my brother. That's what it's all about. I'm only in it for the love. Only in it for the love. And the thing about it is, I wrote this book called Pure Butter. It's about 35 pages, but it's the content that everybody said they really appreciate, and it's very timely. You see, so don't worry about the size of the book. Just like anything else, it's not the size of the ship that makes you seasick. It's the motion of the ocean. And don't worry about where you come from. A lot of famous rich people, what have you, they came from places that nobody ever heard of. In fact, I knew a man that lived in a town so small they called it nothing, but he grew up to become something. You keep that in mind. It's up to you. You can pay it now, mom and daddy, sister and brother. You can pay now, or you can pay later. Thank you for listening.